project is called Bird's Nest, and we've done this as a Mother's Day card because when you see what's inside you'll understand why. It's very, very pretty. So you're getting all the embellishments that you need. There's nothing on any of these projects that I've used that you're not getting. I haven't used any ribbons or gems or anything like that. Everything is from the instructions in the USB, apart from your cardstock, of course. So Happy Mother's Day on the front. And then we open this up and we've got this lovely little bird in the nest with her chicks, a worm in her mouth, which I thought was a really nice touch. And then this beautiful tree in the background and the chirp chirp sentiment. And then these flowers I've got from a different project and just decorated it up. So you can see how cute that is. But again, you could change this up. You could use this could be a birthday card or an anniversary card. You'll just change the decoration. But the actual pop-up mechanism, the box part, will work for anything. All right, so let's get started. So step one, cut the card base and valley fold along the score line. So this is the card base. I'm going to fold this over so it's creating a V in the middle. And you will have guidelines on this one. We're not going to worry about those. You don't need to fold those. It's just the perforation line, okay? Step two, cut the bird's nest and fold all the score lines as mounting folds. Glue the side tab in place to create a rectangular box. So this is our bird's nest. So I'm going to fold them all as mountings, so backwards on themselves, right the way along like this. Okay. These are mounting folds as well, so they're coming inside themselves, and then it says glue the tab in place to create a rectangular box. So I'm going to do what I told myself to do. I'm going to follow my own instructions. Now I've just got a little bit of a skin over my glue, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And again, if you want to use red liner tape, that's entirely up to you. I'm good at getting things straight, but maybe not first time. So I'm very aware of that, so that's why I like to use a wet glue. It also gives me a little bit of wiggle room. So if you want something that's more instant, you can absolutely use red liner tape or double-sided tape. Just put a little bit of glue on the top because it gives you that little bit of wiggle time. You'll get that instant grab from the tape, but it will just give you that little bit of movement. Right, so we've got our tabs at the bottom and we have created our rectangular box. Okay, see there? Perfect. Number three, glue the chicks to the inside of the box along the front. So we have 4 little chicks, and at the bottom of each one there's a little perforation line. You might not be able to see that very clearly, but you've got a little perforation line. We're just going to put glue from the perforation line down, and we're going to stick these onto the inside, making sure that you don't put one where the fold line is, the vertical fold line in your box, because that's your mechanism. And you can have as many of these as you want. So if you've got somebody that's got 3 children, you can put 3 in. If you've got somebody that's got 6 children, you can put 6 in. It's entirely up to you, okay? We're just going to pop our little chicks in, and you'll do these out of really nice colours, and you'll add a little bit of ink to the edges, and you'll do all that creative bit that we love to do. But as I said, these videos are just about me showing you how the mechanisms work. It's not about decorating them all up. I'll do some pretty ones on air. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you were confident that the instructions all worked and that you had a video tutorial, because a lot of us learn from watching rather than from reading. The other advice I would give you is to read a step at a time, or part of a step at a time, and do the step. If you read the whole thing, it's too many words. Trust me, I know it blows your mind, and you don't want to be getting into that state before you even start crafting. So, a bit at a time. One step, do the step. Next bit, do the step. Next bit, build it, etc., etc. Right, so I've got my little chicks in there now. So that was step 3. Cut and decorate the bird and glue it into the back of the box, making sure that the centre of the bird lines up with the centre score lines on the nest. So we've got a perforation line down. We're going to fold that in half like that, and then you will have mats and layers for this bird. When you're putting your mats and layers on, make sure the wing comes in 2 parts. Make sure the right one is on the right side of the perforation line, it's not folding over. And before you glue it into your box, make sure that it folds, okay? And then we're going to glue that into here. So I'm going to put glue across the bottom here. And then I'm going to take my box and I'm going to position my bird in there, and I'm going to make sure that the perforation line in the middle of the card lines up with the perforation line of the bird. And the best way to do that is to push the bird in, make sure the perforation line is pushed into that V that we've got down there. Make sure that that's pushed in like that. Close the box, press it down firmly, and then you know that your bird will open up like so, okay? And then just let that dry. It's important that you let these things dry, because as I can see now, it wants to move because it's not completely dry, all right? So that's really important that you let the glue dry properly, because as soon as you start to move it, the card wants to move because it's not stuck to each other properly, all right? But once it's completely dry, it folds as one piece. Right, so the next thing it says is cut the tree sentiment, so I can pop this to one side while that just dries off a little bit. Cut the tree sentiment and fold the centre score line as a valley, that way, and the two horizontal score lines, one there and one there, as a mountain. So we fold that back like that, etc, etc. Right, cut and glue the tree sentiment mat in place. Now, when I first did this project, they hadn't created a mat for this, and I thought you might want the words, the chirp chirp, in a different colour. So rather than cutting another whole one and snipping these out, I got them to put a mat on. Now I'm not going to stick mine on because it's just, I want to get onto the other projects for you as well, but you'll stick your two sentiment mats onto there first. It's much easier to stick them down when it's flat than when it's stood up in a pop-up card. Select and resize some leaves from the Ornate Bench project, okay, so, and glue them to the tree as required. So I've told you which projects you need to get the leaves from if they're not in the project, or any extra embellishments if they're not in the project that you're working on at that time. Fold the bird's nest in half so the centre score lines face away from each other. So what that means is, this is your centre score line here. So you've got one right down the front of your box there. You've got another one down the back of your box. So you're going to fold those so they're facing away from each other. So that one's facing to the back and this one is facing to the front, okay? And you're going to make sure that you're going to glue this into place now. So it says, making sure that tabs on the bird's nest are facing in, glue them in place using the lower guidelines on the card base. So you've got lower guidelines here. So with the tabs facing in, you're going to make sure that there is, I'm going to try and hold this up so that you can see it inside. In fact, what I'll do is I'll glue it first and then I'll lift it up and show you, okay? I'm in a room on my own today because they're videoing Tattered Lace subscription. So they've just put a camera in front of me and left me. Do you know, we could get up to all sorts. I could tell you all sorts of stories, couldn't I? But I'm actually going to be really professional and refrain. It could be quite dangerous otherwise. Right, so I'm going to use the guidelines that are on here, and you'll have to make sure that your box is straight because you're going to want one of the tabs on the left hand side of the score line and one on the right. So you can look inside, and the guides aren't going to line up perfectly. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, so that you can actually see them, because there's no point in putting guides underneath the corners because you won't know if the guides are there or not. And then we're going to push down, I'm going to press that firmly. Right, I'm going to lift this up and show you as clearly as I can. Can you see in there? This is my centre score line here. And if you look inside there, you can see there's one tab on one score line and one on the other side of the score line. Okay? Perfect. And when you look inside, that's exactly what you see. Now it's important that we let that dry thoroughly too, okay? So the next thing is make sure the centre score line of the bird's nest lines up with the centre fold line of the card base. So we've done that bit. With the tabs on the tree sentiment facing backwards, glue the sentiment in place on the card base using the upper guidelines as provided. So you have a little V cut into here, and you're going to put glue on your tabs. Now, when I did mine, the V is a guideline for the angle, really. Where you put that on there is entirely up to you, okay? But it's just that V line is just there so that you can see it when you're positioning over the top, all right? So let's get some glue on here, and then I'll do the same thing again. I'll lift it up so that you can see. So make sure you go right up to that perforation line with your glue, because that's what's going to hold it in place and enable it to fold properly. We don't want any gaps, okay? So I'm just going to put glue on here. And all I'm doing with my glue is I'm scratching it on, right? So I don't want too much, because when you've got, when you're working with a glue like pinflow book binding glue, it has a low water content, which is great because it means it dries quickly. So you don't want to overdo it, because then you put in more glue and it's going to soak into your card and it's going to make it fluffy. Right, I'm just going to position this from my angle, and then I'm going to turn it around and show you. Okay, so I'm just going to position those down, and I'm making sure that this fold line here is lining up with my central score line. So I'm going to press those tabs down firmly, and then I'm going to turn it around so you can see that the tree wraps behind. You could put it back further back if you want to. It's entirely up to you. But then if I lift this forward, you can see in between there and the V, you've got the little guides in there as well. Okay. Now, if I try and fold this now, I'm going to risk it. But the chances are that they're going to pop. It's going to want to pop up. So you need to make sure that your box can go backwards, so it can fold backwards. And it's going to take a little bit of manipulation, because you want the front of the box to go one way and the back of the box to go another way. You just have a look at the one that oh, that's why, because I've stuck the box in wrong. So there's me, smart Alec, going, oh, I'm going to teach you how to make this properly and it's going to look really good and blah, blah, blah. She does it wrong. I'm leaving it in. So when somebody's watching this, if it's going to be edited, please don't take this out, because this is a learning curve, okay? We're all learning together on this one. I should have just looked at my finished sample, shouldn't I? So, taking on board what the instructions say, Melanie, I have got my tabs on. Tabs need to go on this side, so actually what I've done is done the bird in the wrong place as well. So, oh dear, actually, let me just I'm going to take it all apart, all right, so that you can see where I went wrong, because I want you to see this. This is important. And I'm not one of those people that's precious and, oh no, I can't seem to be make a mistake. It's part and parcel of what we do. And sometimes it's nice for you guys at home to know that us professionals make loads of mistakes. We just normally cover them before we go in front of a camera, but it's fine. So, let's start again, shall we? So we're going to make sure that there is a tab on the left and a tab on the right. That's what we need to make sure. That's the important bit. So when you do this bit, look, you've got your tabs are here. You're going to push them underneath. You're going to have one on the left and one on the right. Fine. Let's start that bit. Let's do that bit. But actually, let's stick the chicks in. So now I've got move my card base out of the way. I've got my box folded like this. And I've got inside there, I've got a tab on the left and a tab on the right. I'm now going to take the chicks and I'm going to stick them into position. So I'm going to get the guys who edit it to put a little note at the beginning that says, do not glue anything down until you've watched this video, because Mel does it wrong, but she shows you how to make it right, because I think it's important that we leave it in. That's what I'm going to do. And it'll give you all a giggle at home, won't it? It'll make you feel better. Let me tell you, we make loads of mistakes. Loads and loads. Probably more than you do, because we're trying to plan these projects and make them work. And then we come in to video them for you to show you how easy they are. We get it wrong. I think that's hilarious. I love it. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, it's paper and card, isn't it? You know, after the year we've had, that's the least of our problems, isn't it? So we've now got this. We're right now. Now I know what I'm doing. So the bird now, is going to go into the back, okay, like that. So we're going to push that down. I'm going to put more glue on here, like that. And we're going to position this inside that box, okay. So I'm going to put my bird into there. I'm going to open the box just out like that. And I'm going to fold that in. Okay, so I'm going to press that down and then I'm going to open it out and it will all fold in like that, okay? And I've still got, if I lift this up and show you, I've still got a tab on the left, tab on the right. So now what we're going to do is stick this on the guideline. So the tabs line up. This V at the back lines up to that V, and then these tabs line up on here. So let's get glue on here, like this. And we're going to position this in place. So we're going to position the V onto the V. We're going to just get those tabs in place first. So there, like that. So across here. I'm going to just squish my box back out again so that we've got that bit there. I'm going to press that down there and press that down there, like that. And then you've really got to leave it to dry, okay, because it's going on an angle now as well. So I'm going to pop that one there and that one there, but I'm making sure that the score line in the bird is lining up with the centre there, and the score line at the front there is lining up with the front bit of there as well. Right, let's re-stick our chirp back in. Well, let's just make sure this folds properly first, shall we? And bearing in mind these tabs aren't glued down, but I know it's going to fold. That's going to go back, this is going to come forward. So I'm going to leave that to dry, because if I try and fold it now it's just going to flip up and that's no good. So I'm going to stick this one in and then I'll show you on the finished one. So let's do our glue again on our tabs, making sure the tabs are going backwards as it tells you in the instructions. I'm going to position that behind there, so I'm going to take this a little bit further up as well. So I'm going to take it higher up the card so you can actually see the chirp when it opens up. I think that looks better anyway. I'm going to press that down firmly, and I'll make sure that I do this one on air as well, so you can watch this. Right, I'm going to pop that to one side. So you can see that on the prototype I've got the same as I've got on my finished card. If I try and fold that now, those tabs are just going to ping up because the dry hasn't set, the glue hasn't dried. So I'm going to come to this one. Right, so the way that this goes now is this is going to fold back, that's going to fold back, and then this part is going to fold forward. So when we close the card, you've got that, you've got your Mother's Day on the front, and then when we open it, it opens up and the bird and the sentiment pops up. So I'm just going to hold it this way so that you can see inside. We've got those two tabs, one on either side, the left and the right hand side of the score line, and then that enables the box to fold flat like that. Okay, lesson learnt. Watch the video before you start to make it, and then work along with me, but be aware that that one just went a little bit wrong, but we've put it right, which is great. And once that's dry, I mean completely dry, you'll just, you can see how it started. It wants to go in now by itself like that. Look, brilliant. Okay, but again, this could have something else in it. It could have a birthday cake in, and if you have a birthday cake and it doesn't have the score line in the centre, just put one in. It's as simple as that. So think about all the other things that you can do with this fabulous mechanism.